Alrighty, thank you so much for everybody joining me this morning, this afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. It's the CJ Curry Show, and yes, I have my own show, and it's presented by PrizePicks. Guys, if you're not playing on PrizePicks yet, it's a great time to get signed up. Win up to 25 times your money by getting 6 out of 6 picks right. You just choose more or less on your favorite superstars from your favorite sports, mix them together, and maybe you can win big. All right. I've left a link down in the description of today's video for you to get started on PrizePicks. Use promo code Curry to make your first deposit. You'll get a 100% instant deposit match, dollar for dollar, up to $100. Shout out to the gang. I see everybody up in here today. You guys are pumped and ready to go. I'm pumped and ready to go. We've got Blake in the building. Shout out to you. Fear Shaolin says, so my super chat isn't working. Is there another way I can send you the money and ask questions? I'll keep an eye on you. If your super chat's not working, I don't know how to fix that, to be honest with you. But Everyday Fantasy's in the building. He says, what to do back at you. That's our guy, Don P. If you guys are in Discord, you know the drill. Kyle Kaz is in the building. Shout out to you. Brutal tacos last night. Do we want to talk about those tacos? I mean, I guess we can address them, right? I guess we could talk about them. We did kind of warn you on yesterday's show that the Jimmy Butler taco was not a free square. It did not by any means look like a guaranteed win. And unfortunately, Jimmy Butler's taco did not come through clutch for us. Hate to say it, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but We had a 2-pick that we made in yesterday's show. D'Angelo Russell under on points. That hit very easily. All we needed was Jimmy Butler's taco to come through clutch, and it did not. Jimmy Buckets did not get us enough buckets. And on top of that, Garrett Cole did not hit 6 or more strikeouts. So that taco was also a bust. But if you guys watched my MLB video, you know that I took the under on 7 strikeouts for Garrett Cole's original line. And we talked about maybe going under on Jimmy Butler's original point line of 27.5 was a smart move. So sometimes you take the under on the original line and it is a better play than the taco over. And yesterday seems to kind of be the case with both of those tacos that ended up kind of betraying us and failing us. But nonetheless, LeBron James did come through and kind of help save the night. Didn't leave us with a bitter taco taste in our mouths. Tony Ruiz is in the building. Shout out to you. Swish Gaming's here. What's up? What's up? Who else we got in here? Dave, Mr. Gutierrez, Brandon Ingram over free throws is your favorite play. Okay, well, maybe we'll take a look at that one. IRB Neil says, what's good? Let's get the bag. We got MCP here. Christian's here. It's a parade in my city. Yeah. Roy's here. Let's go, Chef Curry. MCP wants to know, how do we get that giveaway entry? You just got to be a subscriber. You have to hit the like button. And then once I end the show, you go to the replay of today's show and leave a comment down in the comment section. It could be your favorite pick, prop, or play of the day. Maybe it's just you saying, man, those tacos really stunk last night. Whatever the case may be. You just leave a comment after I post the replay of today's video. But yeah, LeBron's taco was absolute fire. Norman says, I told y'all don't force it. That's right, we did. We warned people that Jimmy Butler was definitely not a free square. T-Bone, what's up to you? Dominic, appreciate you being here. Cole was the best move for the under. I don't know why I didn't get that and trust in my research, but it is what it is. That's right. Got to just brush that off, man. It's a new day. We got a couple of nice NBA games to look forward to. And MLB starts in about 30 minutes or so, or less than 30 minutes. So plenty of different things for us to play today. And, I think we're going to make today a profitable day. All right, so let's get into today's giveaway. You guys are wanting to know who the winner is for these giveaways. Well, we got 23 comments from yesterday's replay comment section. All right, 23 comments already preloaded here. All we got to do now, hit the start button and find us a winner for a chicken dinner. It looks like it's going to be Burt Brown. He says, go Vid, go Lakers. Shout out to Burt Brown. Burt, I don't know if you're watching or not, but you're the big winner today, my friend. All I need you to do now, shoot me a DM either through Twitter at Curry the Creator or jump down into our Discord. I've left links to both down in the description of today's video and links to everything that I've got going on. Patreon, Discord, Twitter, the DG Fantasy Optimizer, props.cash. I mean, all that stuff's down in the description of the video. But Bert, you're the big winner, man. So now all you got to do, Bert, once you get that risk-free 2-pick power play added to your account, you just get both picks right and you win $100 dollar bills, y'all. So shout out to Big Bert, the big winner of the day. All right, let's get into today's 2-game NBA slate. Chicago Bulls taking on the Toronto Raptors. Folks, this one has a 212.5 total, not a super sky-high total. The Toronto Raptors are favored by 6 points in this particular game. It looks like both teams going to be fully healthy. I don't see anybody on the injury report. I don't see anybody who's potentially going to be ruled out. So unless there's any type of surprises, it looks like we're going to have both teams running at 100% efficiency. So it'll be Pat Bev, Alex Caruso, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic starting 5, projected starting 5 for the Bulls. And then for the Raptors, it's going to be Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and Jakob Poeltl as their starting 5. So that's your first game, Eastern Conference play-in game. And then we head over to the West. We've got a 9:30 p.m. tip-off here between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New Orleans Pelicans. As far as injury news goes, Pokashevsky is out for OKC. New Orleans, obviously, Zion Williamson still out. Doesn't sound like he's going to be coming back anytime soon. He says he's physically healthy, but feels like he could support the team better by being on the sidelines. I don't know. Make it make sense. I'm kind of ready to give up on Zion Williamson. I don't know. Liddell, Alvarado, both out. Larry Nance Jr. is a game-time decision, so that's what you have to look forward to from New Orleans. But this one's got a 227-point total with a 5.5-point spread. So those are your 2 games tonight. 7 o'clock tip-off, Chicago, Toronto. 9:30 tip-off, OKC, NOP. Appreciate you guys joining me here today. If you guys have any hard-hitting, pressing matters, questions, things that you have that are urgent, whether it be player prop related or otherwise, feel free to use the super chat. For as little as $1.99. You can help support the channel, support the show, be featured on today's show. It'll highlight your comment, your question, your favorite pick, prop, or play, and you'll get one-on-one help here. I'll do my best to help you with your player prop research if you have one that you're kind of stuck on, not really sure which way you want to go, over, under, more, less. I'm here to help. That's what the purpose of what we're doing today is. Want to thank the new subscribers, TBNR, Gohan. Thanks for subscribing. Dominic, thank you for subscribing. And Perfectness 2.0. We got Janet 7, Crypto Nick. We got a lot of new subscribers coming through, guys. Let's try to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. That would be huge, wouldn't it? So if you're not subscribed, get subscribed and turn those notifications on. All right, you guys are already hitting me with some questions and stuff, so we're going to take a look at those and definitely take a look at the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. We did have some nice picks. I think, didn't Anthony Davis go over 49.5 fantasy score? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he did. We talked about D'Angelo Russell under on points. That came through. I also posted 4 additional picks to Patreon for our Discord members, and those went 3-1. We ended up hitting on Kyle Lowry's points. Sheesh. Kyle Lowry was on one last night. He crushed it. We also hit on Saddiq Bey over on points, and we also hit on Anthony Davis over points and rebounds. His line was at 38.5. So we went 3-1. Patreon picks. I'm posting picks each and every day. If you guys want more picks than what we talk about here on YouTube, guys, I got them. I got the goods. Anyway, let's get into today's Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Shout out to the Daily Grind Fantasy team for building such a fantastic tool for PrizePicks players. This tool, absolute game changer. It helps you jump on the props before the props get bumped up or get bumped down. So the goal of today's live stream is to A, help you with your player prop questions, but also B, I think I want to build at least a 5-pick, maybe even a 6-pick flex entry. What do you guys want to do? 5-pick or 6-pick? You know, we got happy hour coming around the corner too today. So minimum entry amounts will drop from $5 minimum down to $1 minimum. So that's a pretty cool time for you to experiment with some other sports and, play more volume at just $1. You could turn $1 into 25 bucks and get 25 times your money. But let's run through this optimizer here and see what's popping off, and then we'll get to some of your questions in just a moment. So the first one that's really standing out here is Gary Trent Jr., who's now kind of playing off the bench. Ever since they traded for Jakob Poeltl, you've seen Gary Trent Jr. sort of out of the starting 5. He's been coming off the bench for the Toronto Raptors now. He's kind of filling in as that like 6th man type of guy, right? He comes in with the second unit, kind of gets free reign over the offense, gets plenty of shots and stuff up. So points and rebounds are set at 14.5 for him here on PrizePicks. But if we take a look at the optimizer, guys, 54.3% chance that he goes over 14.5 points and rebounds. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to go through and we're going to look at some projections on some of these guys here, starting with Gary Trent Jr. We're going to see if we should be taking the over or the under here. I got him projected for 14.1. Again, his line is set at 14.5 on PrizePicks. So a little bit less than his line on PrizePicks at 14.1, but nonetheless, a decent projection for him. I'm not too scared off by a 14.1 on a line of 14.5. Let's look at another one here. Points and rebounds, 14.5. We got him at 12.7. Okay, so that's 2 projections now that have him going slightly under. And then we'll take a look here at NumberFire, another one of these free sites that offers projections for fantasy score. They offer projections for single stat props as well, like points, rebounds, assists, etc. So we've got him at 14.6 points and his rebounds at 2.3. So that's about 16.9. Let's call it 17 points and rebounds. So 3 different models we've checked. 2 have him going under. 1 has him going over by quite a bit. They have him going over just on the points alone. That's not even including the rebound potential he has. So yes, it's a plus EV play with the odds being in your favor if you decide to take the over at 14.5. But for me, I like to find some projection models that kind of agree with that kind of vibe with the way that the optimizer tells me to go. And in this case, I only found one projection that really is rocking with Gary Trent Jr. over points and rebounds. So I'm going to kind of leave that one alone and see if we can find something maybe a little bit better that's projecting better than that one. Here's another one for you. Toronto Raptors point guard Fred VanVleet is at 2.5 3-point makes. We know in the past that the Chicago Bulls have not been a team who's defended opposing guards very well. We've seen some guards have some big games against the Bulls over the last couple of years. If you guys are not familiar, Zach LaVine, not a great defender. DeMar DeRozan, not a great defender. Now, they did add Patrick Beverley, and perhaps that bolsters their defense just a little bit. But depending on how they match up, I don't know if they're going to put Pat Bev on Fred VanVleet. I don't know if they're going to put him on OG Anunoby. I'm not sure how they're going to match up. But maybe Fred VanVleet for more than 2.5 3-point makes some sense today. I mean, it's given us a 54.1% chance that Fred VanVleet knocks down at least 3 triples. So let's see if we can pull some projections up here for Fred VanVleet. We got him projected for 3.4 3-point makes on a line of 2.5. So that's a good first projection. A ton of juice coming in on the over here at just 2.5 3-point makes on various sports books. So I like that first projection on Fred VanVleet. Let's check another one here. 2.5 is the line. The projection's about 3.2. So again, 3 or more 3-point makes is our goal here if we're looking to take the over on VanVleet. And it looks like so far we're 2 for 2. Let's try to make it 3 for 3. I'm going to check this last projection model here on Fred VanVleet and see if we can make it a 3 for 3. His projected 3-point makes look like they are 3.2. So that's 3 different trusted, reliable projection models that all have him making at least 3 triples tonight. So for me, it is a plus EV play. It's projecting well across 3 different sites. I'm willing to put this in as our first pick over on PrizePicks. So let's go ahead and do that. For some reason, I'm not already logged in here on PrizePicks, but I am now, darn it. And yeah, like I said, Fred VanVleet's going to be the first pick. Are you guys liking this one? Those of you who are watching live, let me know in the live chat. Are we liking Fred VanVleet for more than 2.5 3-point makes? Why or why not? I kind of showed you the numbers behind the pick, so I feel like we're getting our money in good on this one. And for those of you who don't like this pick, feel free to fade it. You don't have to take it if you don't like it. All right. You guys are saying that Gary Trent Jr. just got bumped up. Roy's liking Fred VanVleet for the 3-point makes. All right, shout out to you, Roy. Everyday Fantasy also leaving the thumbs up, letting me know that he's rocking with that as well. So the Gary Trent Jr. pick that we just talked about, the points and rebounds, it's gone. Well, it's not gone, but the line that it was at 14.5, it is now up to 15. So that one just got bumped. All right, so there's our first pick. Let's go through the optimizer. Let's see if we can find a few more here, and then we'll get to some of your questions and stuff. We're looking for some more plus EV plays. We got Nikola Vucevic here at 27.5 points and rebounds. He'll be matched up tonight with Jakob Poeltl and the Toronto Raptors. So points and rebounds line on PrizePicks is 27.5. We're seeing it at 28.5 on some different sports books. So the optimizer here giving us about a 53.4% chance that Vooch finds at least 28 or more points and rebounds going up against Toronto tonight. So let's take a look at this one here. We want to find some favorable projections, some projections that kind of align with or agree with the way that the optimizer's telling us to go here. And the first one, 29.1 points and rebounds on a line of 27.5 here on PrizePicks. So I think that's a great first projection. 29.1 versus 27.5. Let's check another one here for you guys. Vucevic points and rebounds on RotoWire. 29.7 points and rebounds. Again, the line 27.5 here on PrizePicks. So that's 2 points and rebounds higher than the line that we're getting him at here on PrizePicks. So for me, I've seen enough. I'm not even going to check a third model. I think that looks like a fine second pick. So let's go ahead and put Vucevic in there for more than 27.5 points and rebounds. Projecting well, as is Fred VanVleet on a couple of different models, and we are getting a little bit of value here. So that could be a nice little 2-pick same game parlay for those of you who like to play the 2-pick power plays. You could go for both of these. Go for a 3x if you wanted to, or we could push our luck and try to add 3, 4, 5, or maybe even 6 picks. You guys let me know what you want to do. So that's a nice first look here. I think I'm going to go ahead and let me put 30 on this. I want to get these 2 picks locked in before they get bumped, but we'll go ahead and build on top of this too and try to get 3, 4, 5, and maybe even up to 6 more picks. 6 total picks, I should say, to add on to this initial 2 pick. But I like that as a good starting point. So I got $30 in there on the 2 pick. If I get both of those right, we'll bring home $90, 3 times our money. So let's keep looking here on the optimizer. Let's scroll through a couple more of these. Vucevic was the last one we looked at. Let's go through some others. I'm going to just avoid any picks, props, or plays that could potentially tie or push, like Zach LaVine under 4 rebounds. I'm not into those picks that tie and push. I want clean wins and losses here. So I'm going to move on. Let's take a look at Kobe White. He's at 9.5 points. Now, you should expect that now that it's playoff time, that some of these head coaches will start to tighten their rotations up. You'll start seeing that the bench players are getting less minutes. They're not as heavily involved as they were maybe in the regular season. Now you have everything to play for, so they're going to give the best players the most minutes. So Kobe White is going to play. He is going to get minutes. I just question whether he's going to get as many minutes or opportunities as he did in the regular season, especially with Caruso healthy. You've got Pat Bev now in the mix. Dosunmu's still in there. Obviously, Zach LaVine. So they're pretty guard heavy team. So let's look at Kobe White real quick. 9.5 points, giving us about a 53.1% chance that he stays under 9.5 points. Yes, to Isaiah's point, Oladipo, for example, only played 9 minutes. Kevin Love played 3 minutes last night for the Miami Heat. I mean, they just traded for this guy, and he only played 3 minutes last night for Miami. So that just kind of goes to show you some of these head coaches are going to run their starters for as many minutes as they can handle. So let's look at Kobe White. Maybe the underplay on his points at 9.5 is a good move. 53.1% chance, according to the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer, for him to have 9 or less points tonight. So let's go take a look at some projections. You know how we roll. We got to see if we got some good favorable projections here on Kobe White. First projection that I'm seeing has him at 9.9. which is definitely closer to 10 than it is 9 points, right? And if he scores 10 or more, that's no good for us if we're taking the under, correct? We don't want that. So let's keep looking here. Maybe we can find another projection. 9.5 line, 10.5 projection on RotoWire. So that's 2 projection sources that have Kobe White going over 9.5. I don't think we need to take this any further. For me, that's going to be a pass. I'm going to skip over Kobe White. Here's another one. OG Anunoby. 15.5 points. Optimizer giving this one a 52.8% chance for him to go over. So nearly 53% chance of OG scoring at least 16 points. And you know when OG Anunoby's hot, right? When he's rolling, he can get buckets in bunches. And in this case, he needs at least 16 points if we're going to get the over. So let's go take a look at some projections on Anunoby tonight. 15.4, that's really freaking close to 15.5. That's not low enough for me to be scared off on this particular play. If it was 14.4, I'd probably pass on it, but 15.4, I'm still interested. So let's check some other projections here. We've got him at 15.5 and then a projection of 17. There we go. Now we're cooking with grease. So 15.5 projection of 17. And then let's get one more projection here. This could be the tiebreaker on whether or not we're going to take the over or under on OG Anunoby. Number Fire's got him projected for 16.9 points, my friends. That's close to 17. So we got 2 projections that have him right around 17 points. One other projection that has him like 15.4, really close to his line of 15.5 today. So I think that I'm okay with you taking OG Anunoby over 15.5 points. So if we wanted to add a third pick to this, well, we've got it right here with Anunoby at 15.5. I don't mind that at all. So we've got Anunoby. Why did it get rid of my other picks? Hold on. Fred VanVleet. And then we talked about Nikola Vucevic, right, over points and rebounds at 27.5. So there's 3 solids. 3 solids for you to get started with today. I think they all look reasonably playable. What do you guys think? Liking them? Hating them? Let me know what you like. David's mentioning a play from yesterday, which was Nikola Vucevic at 2.5 dimes. We talked about Vucevic at 2.5 assists on yesterday's show. We mentioned that one. If you wanted to get that one in early from yesterday's show, well, you should have, because apparently you guys are saying that it's been ripped down from the PrizePicks board. All right, so the Vucevic assists are gone. Let me see why that could be. For those of you who could still get this pick on, another site, Vucevic projected for 2.9 dimes. You kind of see his lines across the different sports books, anywhere from, minus 125 betting favorite as high as minus 140 betting favorite to go over. They probably could have bumped it up to 3, but, they got a little aggressive, I guess, and decided to just go ahead and rip the Vucevic assist line off the PrizePicks board completely. That's fine. That's fine. I think the points and rebounds makes for a fine pivot, fine substitute for those 2.5 assists. Appreciate all 90 of you watching. Guys, if you haven't hit the like button yet, help your boy out. We hit 130 plus likes on yesterday's live stream. I'm just asking for 100 today. If we could get to 100, guys, it would be a good day for me. I'd be a happy camper. Let's see if we could get it done. All right, let's keep looking through the optimizer here, and then we'll get to some of your questions. Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points. I don't know if you guys are going to rock with this or not, because obviously Siakam, probably the best player for the Toronto Raptors, right? But the optimizer, again, based on the odds and the way that the juice is flowing on these sports books, Opti is saying take the under on Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points, giving this a 52.5% chance of hitting for us. Siakam under 23.5 points. Do we agree with this? Do we think Siakam under 23.5 points is good? Now, this is before I get into any of the projections or anything like that, but what do you guys think about that? Do you feel comfortable taking the under on Siakam in a playoff type of situation? Let's go take a look at some projections here. 23.8 points. Again, his line on PrizePicks is sitting at 23.5. So 23.8's right there in that 23.5 range. Not too scary. Not going to scare me off if this was like 24.8 or 25.8. We're thinking about taking the under, then I might leave this one alone. But at 23.8, I think we move forward and try to find some other projections and kind of see what the range of outcomes could be. Now, here's a projection of 21.6. on a line of 23.5. So we're looking at a range so far of 21.6 being the low, 23.8 sort of being the high. So it's definitely on the lower end so far. So let's take it to a third projection on Pascal Siakam. Let's see if we can get ourselves a tiebreaker. So far, the picture that's being painted here is that Anunoby's going to have a good scoring night. Siakam may not have that great of a scoring night tonight. So third and final projection here for Siakam, 21.1 points. Again, his line is sitting out there at a pretty hefty 23.5. So we've got two projections that have him under 23.5. The third projection, again, had him at 23.8, which is really close to his line today at 23.5. So this could be your fourth pick. We're pretty much building a same game parlay at this point, right? From the looks of it. It's been all Bulls, all Raptors thus far, but Siakam under 23.5 points does look like the way to go based on the projections, based on the optimizer. Again, giving this about a 52.5% chance that he stays at 23 or less tonight against the Chicago Bulls. Now, Roy's saying that he is rocking with what the optimizer's spitting out. We see that Roy also mentions that Siakam's head-to-head has been very bad versus the Chicago Bulls. Okay, so here's where a site like props.cash really shines. Really, it's worth its weight in gold here. So we're going to go to the Chicago-Toronto game. We're going to click on Pascal Siakam. Now, if you're the type of person who likes to visually see something like what Roy's mentioning, where a player's like bad versus another team, the opposing team head to head. Well, that's where props.cash really helps out. So let's go take a look at what he's done against the Chicago Bulls here. Now, this is over the last 2 seasons. He's only played the Bulls once this season. Just 20 points against the Bulls. That was February 28th, pretty recent game. If we look at what he did in previous seasons, you can see he went under in 3 out of his last 4 games going up against the Chicago Bulls. Who will he be matched up against tonight, though? Who are they putting on Pascal Siakam? Defensively, I thought it would be Patrick Williams, but he's not going to be in the starting lineup. It looks like it's going to be DeMar DeRozan starting at the 4. So I guess DeRozan is going to be guarding Siakam. It's kind of scary, right? I would imagine back around February 28th that maybe Patrick Williams was guarding guarding Pascal Siakam in that game. Williams, I think, for my money, is a better defender than DeMar DeRozan is, but you guys let me know what you think. But 20 points back on February 28th was all that Siakam was able to muster up, going up against the Chicago Bulls. So you can kind of see what he's done over the last 4 games dating back to last season, averaging about 19.8 points per game in that 4-game stretch. So there you go. To Roy's point, maybe there's something to this. Maybe Siakam struggles a little bit tonight against the Chicago Bulls. But I am a little bit concerned that Pat Williams isn't going to be in there, and it's going to be DeMar DeRozan defense. Not known to be a defender, more of a scorer, right? Fair to say. But nonetheless, optimizer projections seem to be leaning on the under for Pascal Siakam. So here's what we got so far for those of you who are just now joining. We got OG Anunoby for more than 15.5 points. Fred VanVleet over 2.5 3-point makes. We got Nikola Vucevic over 27.5 points and rebounds. And then we've got Pascal Siakam for less than 23.5 points. Now, I went ahead and took Fred VanVleet and Nikola Vucevic in a 2-pick power play. So if you guys are looking for something to play, that could be your first 2-pick play of the day. Up to you. Do what you want with your money. None of my business what you guys do, but definitely bet responsibly. But those are 4 solid plays, all from the same game. So let's keep digging. Let's get a little bit more dirty here. We'll keep digging through these different picks, props, and plays on the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer and see if anything else is really standing out to us. All right, staying with this game tonight, we've got Zach LaVine. Rebounds and assists sitting at 8.5. Optimizer giving this one a 52.3% chance that Zach LaVine goes over at 8.5 rebounds and assists. So he needs at least 9, right, to hit the over on the 8.5. So let's take a look at this one. We know that it is a plus EV play. Now we need to know if this one is projecting well. First projection I have on Zach LaVine, 9.7 rebounds and assists on a line of 8.5. So that is a great first projection if we're considering the over like the optimizer is suggesting we do. So that's a good first projection. Let's go further though. Let's look at some other projections. Rebounds and assists, line is 8.5, projections 9.57. Guys, that's 2 very strong projections. 1 or more rebounds and assists projected higher on 2 different models. Now, I'll take it to a third one. We don't even really need to do that. For me, I've seen enough that, this play is worth throwing in your entries tonight. But I will look at it anyway. 4.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists. That's 9.3 projected rebounds and assists. So 3 different models, 3 different projections have LaVine for at least 9 rebounds and assists tonight going up against the Toronto Raptors. So I think this is definitely a play worth considering tonight. It's projecting well. The odds are in your favor. And then the player just has to go out and play. In this case, Zach LaVine has to go out there and get the job done, right? But we've at least put ourselves in a good position for LaVine to go out there and do work. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got ourselves a 5-pick same game parlay going here. I haven't seen anything from this OKC New Orleans game pop up on the optimizer just yet. I mean, there's a couple crazy little stats out there like Josh Giddey. That one's been bumped already though, so I've kind of avoided those. But let's check out Valanciunas just to kind of mix it up a little bit. Go to this other game, this later game here between the Oklahoma City Thunder and New Orleans Pelicans. They got Valanciunas under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists tonight. Now, he's going to be in a pretty good matchup against OKC. As we know, OKC does not have a very dominant big man. They kind of run Jalen Williams, the Jaylin Jalen Williams. They kind of run him out there at center. So Valanciunas, when he has the minutes, when he actually takes the floor and he plays big minutes, he can produce at a pretty high level and at a pretty high clip. So it's kind of scary for me to go under on Valanciunas in what should be a good matchup. And I would expect that their head coach would run the starters as many minutes as they can handle. But let's take a look at this one here because it's given us about a 52.2% chance that Joe Val stays under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So I got to see some projections on this to believe it. Now, if it projects well, then I'll definitely be on board with it. But The first projection is not projecting under 27.5. It's actually projecting over at 28.6. 28.6 PRA on a line of 27.5. So that's not good. Let's check a couple others real quick, though. And if you guys are liking the content, guys, let me know. Hit that like button. We're at 57 likes, 84 people watching. The math ain't mathin' right now. You guys slap that like button if you haven't yet and let YouTube know that you're liking the content. 27.98 on a line of 27.5. So that's two different projections that have been projected to go over 27.5. So it's kind of going against the optimizer. And in this case, I'm not here for that. I don't want to go against the optimizer. I don't want to pit the projections against the optimizer. I want everything to be in agreement and align nicely. So in this case, I'm going to stay away from this one. And I think we can go hard pass here on Joe Val under 27.5 PRA. All right. So that's kind of the first look at the front page, we'll call it, of the optimizer. And so far it's been nothing but picks from this Chicago Toronto game. So let's get to some of your questions. Maybe you guys will mix it up and we'll find some questions that, or some picks rather, that we can add into our 5 that we already have here before they get bumped up. Here's what we got so far. TB4 says he's just joining. We got OG Anunoby for more than 15.5 points. Fred VanVleet for more than 2.5 3-point makes. I put the Fred VanVleet prop in a 2-pick power play with Nikola Vucevic over 27.5 points and rebounds. And then we've also got Pascal Siakam for less than 23.5 points and Zach LaVine for more than 8.5 rebounds and assists. If I were to vote one or two of these off, I would say that I would vote OG Anunoby off, and I would probably vote Pascal Siakam off. And I feel best maybe about Fred VanVleet, Nikola Vucevic, and Zach LaVine. Just based on the projections that we saw, I think those were projecting the strongest, most favorably. For those of you who are just getting here, VanVleet over 3-point or over 2.5 3-point makes, Vucevic over 27.5 points and rebounds, and Zach LaVine over 8.5 rebounds and assists. Those three seem to be the strongest projected plays. Now, if you want to get weird, if you want to mix in Siakam and OG Anunoby on their points, you could definitely do that. But I think for me, based on what we've seen so far, those three that I just mentioned look like the best ones of the bunch. All right, let's run through some of your questions here in the chat. Again, guys, if you have anything that you must have an answer to, you want some one-on-one help, I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's question. There's just one of me and there's a lot more of you. So I apologize in advance if I do not get to everybody's question, but I want to help as many of you as I can. So let's try to get through some of these questions real quick. Let's see here. Lewis is not liking Pascal Siakam under on the points, saying that he does play better at home. You're right about that. I do remember Siakam playing better at home, and Toronto is playing at home tonight. They're hosting the Chicago Bulls. NTF RJ says, do you do underdog fantasy? But no, I don't. I'm strictly a PrizePicks guy. I bleed PrizePicks. But NTF RJ, what I will say is that props are props, no matter where you play at. I mean, if you're playing on a different site, that doesn't necessarily mean that the information provided on the show that I'm doing here that's based around PrizePicks can't help you. So, no, but I think what we talk about in these videos helps no matter where you're playing. Picks, props. All right. Rodolfo Garcia is mentioning, well, what about DeMar DeRozan under rebounds? Let's go take a look at that. So, I've tried my best to avoid any of these picks that are, potentially push type picks where it could be a tie at exactly 5 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan kind of fits that bill though, right? He's set at 5 boards, meaning there is a chance that he lands on exactly 5 rebounds. But there's also a chance that he could go under here like he has in the last 5 games. He's hit 5 or fewer rebounds in 5 straight games. So there's definitely a possibility that DeRozan goes under. Now, let's go back to the optimizer here. Let's refresh it first and foremost. You want to get real comfortable, real familiar with hitting the refresh button on the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer if you're using it, because you want the latest and greatest data being pumped into this thing, right? You want to see the latest lines and all that. So you're asking about DeMar DeRozan's rebounds. Well, they're at 5 on PrizePicks. Just a 50.1% chance, almost a coin flip, that DeMar DeRozan ends up with 5 or more boards. So if you're looking to take the over here, you might as well pull a quarter out of your pocket and flip that sucker and make your decision off of that. Because that's essentially what you're saying here. The odds are suggesting or implying that this is a coin flip. So let's look at some projections here. Maybe that'll help us kind of decide a little bit better on what to do with DeMar DeRozan's rebounds. Here's a projection for 5.1 boards on a line of 5. Here's a projection of 5.8 boards on a line of 5. So it's not like he's like projecting out of this world, at 4 rebounds or 6 rebounds. Like it's pretty much right around 5 boards. So for me, I don't want to try to like flip a coin here to help me decide on what I should do with DeMar DeRozan's rebounds. Here's a projection of 5.2 rebounds. So you're not really seeing a projection higher than 6. You're not really seeing a projection like lower than 5. So I'm going to stay away from that one. But if you feel good about it, whether it be over or under, I will say that most of the projection models have them going over, slightly over 5 from what we're seeing here. So not going to be one that I want to include. It's just too tight. The projections are just too tight. In this case, that's a bad thing. So let's move on. Let's get another question here. What else we got? T-Bone's asking about what about Patrick Williams over 0.5 steals or blocks? Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit ago. A lot of these guys coming off the bench, their minutes are not safe or secure like they were in the regular season. Now, maybe they turn to Patrick Williams at some point. Maybe he gets in there and plays enough minutes where he finds a steal or block. We know that throughout the regular season, he's been pretty good defensively, getting his hands on the basketball, whether that be a block shot or a steal. Now, I can take a look at some projections for you, and we can see if this is a plus EV play or not by using the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Guys, you can get your hands on this optimizer if you're wanting to try it out, take it for a test spin. I'd say at least do a month if you're going to do it. A week, just not enough time. But there's a link down in the description of today's video where if you sign up and use code Curry, you save $5. So check out the optimizer if you're looking to get your hands on it. Anyway, Patrick Williams, 0.5 steals, 52.4% chance that Patrick Williams will find at least one steal tonight. Okay, so the optimal way to play this prop would be the over. Again, based on the odds, the juice that are on the sports books here, Daily Grind Fantasy giving this almost a 52.5% chance that he'll find at least one steal. So there's that. Now, let me see if I've got some projections for you because I'm sure we're going to want to make sure this is, projected favorably here, right? So here's a 0.7 steal projection on a line of 0.5. It's not that much higher or more than 0.5, but higher nonetheless, right? Let's get another one here for you. Steals, 0.5 is the line, projection, 0.84. So that's a little bit better. It's trending upward, right? So two projections, 0.7, 0.84, and they're both slightly more than 0.5. Let's get you a third one here just to see how it's looking. Patrick Williams steals 0.8. All right. So three projections at 0.7 or more as far as the projected steal. So yes, you could go this way. It is a plus EV play. It is projecting favorably on 3 different sites. So if you wanted to add Patrick Williams into this same game parlay, I wouldn't be mad at that. I mean, your money would be getting in good here on Patrick Williams at more than 0.5 steals. So, I mean, we could run this. I'll put a little something on it here. I'll put $10 on it. If we get all 6 of these right, we'll bring home $250 on PrizePicks. So there's a same game 6-pick flex entry. And of course, if you get 5 out of 6 right on PrizePicks, it's fantastic because you could still double your money. You could still turn 10 into 20 or 20 into 40 or 50 into 100, right? You could still double your dollars, and doubling up's never a bad thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one courtesy of our guy T-Bone, and we'll make that a 6th pick in our 6-pick entry. Almighty Savage Gaming's asking about OG Anunoby and his fantasy score. That could be another fine way to play OG Anunoby. For those of you who don't know, OG, pretty good himself at getting some steals, getting some blocks, and his fantasy score could be a good way to go tonight. Let's go take a look at that one real quick. And then for those of you who don't know, fantasy scoring on PrizePicks is pretty much the same as it is on FanDuel, or if you play on Yahoo for their fantasy basketball, same scoring across all three sites. But OG Anunoby here sitting at 28 fantasy score. Let's go take a look at that across a couple of different models, and we'll see if he's projecting for more or less using FanDuel projections on PrizePicks. So we go and take a look at Anunoby. He's at 28 fantasy score on PrizePicks, like we mentioned. The projection here on RotoWire has him at 33.1. Guys, that is a difference of 5.1 fantasy score. That's huge. That is a huge difference. Huge gap and advantage in our favor. So that first projection is a monster. I like that. Let's go find you another one, though. Let's see how these other models are stacking up with OG Anunoby. 32.4 fantasy score. Again, the line's 28 on PrizePicks. That's a huge projection difference. 5.4. I'm sorry, 4.4 in this case. 4.4. So 33.1, 32.4. Two projections of 4 or more fantasy score. That's big. That's big news. Let's get you a third and final projection here. Taking a look at Fantasy Labs. They've got him at a more conservative number, 29.8, but still, even that at 1.8 fantasy score more, that's not a bad look. So if you wanted to, maybe we do something like this. Maybe we click reuse players. Maybe we take OG Anunoby out for his points. And instead of taking the points, you take the fantasy score for more at 28. So you could go this route. Instead of going OG points, you go OG fantasy score. Being that he's projecting really well across 3 different trusted models, right? What do you guys think about that? Loving it? Hating it? Who's dunking tonight? Tate Otat on drugs wants to know who's dunking tonight. That's a great question. I've got no idea. I've stayed away from these new prop categories. I don't know if you guys have seen these on PrizePicks recently. They've added stuff like dunks. I mean, Pascal Siakam to get 1 dunk kind of sounds interesting, right? 1 dunk for Siakam? Come on now. Maybe. I don't know. There's no way to get a projection on a dunk. But it just seems like a guy like him, long, athletic, lanky. Maybe he flushes at least 1. Maybe. Fast break. I don't know, you know. It's a really degenerate, we'll call it a really degenerate player prop market, these dunks. But hey, if you're not liking Siakam for less than 23.5 points, maybe you go and you put him in there for like at least 1 dunk. What do you guys like better? Siakam for less than 23.5 points or Siakam for more than 0.5 dunks? Let me know. That could be interesting though. Let's see, going through some other questions that you guys have here. We do have a super chat coming through. Appreciate the super chat from our guy Rocket Sauce. Rocket Sauce, one of our longtime Patreon Discord members. He says, "Hi CJ." Hello Rocket Sauce. He says, "We used to love playing those first half fantasy score with the big guys. Do you like Nikola Vucevic at 19.5 fantasy or Jakob Poeltl at 15.5 fantasy?" Thank you, my friend. Let's take a look. I mean, what did we say the spread was on this game? 6 points. Normally for me, when I play first half only props, it's typically in a game where the situation could blow out, where the game could become a runaway. I don't know that we're really going to see that tonight, but I mean, potentially. We have seen the Bulls kind of get run over and games turn into a blowout. 212.5 point total, 6 point spread. That's kind of the situation you're looking at here. I would like to think that maybe the Chicago Bulls show a little bit of heart, a little bit of backbone tonight and don't get blown out. But let's take a look at some of these. You asked about Nikola Vucevic. One thing that you could do to kind of look at first half fantasy score research is use a site like StatMuse, which is completely free, by the way. You would just type in Nikola Vucevic, 1H for first half, FanDuel points logs this season. All right. And then this will bring up his first half fantasy score logs from the last 25 games. Now you could get even more specific here. You could look at like how he does at home versus on the road. So in this case, let's look at Vucevic at 19.5. We've seen him clear this line in 1, 2, 3 straight games. 3 out of his last 5. Let's back it up a little bit further here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's cleared in 3 out of that cluster of 5 games. So 6 out of his last 10, 60% hit rate, covering 19.5 first half fantasy points. Now, there's not really a perfect science or projection for projecting a guy's first half fantasy points, right? So what I've done in the past is simply pulled up a full game projection on a guy like Vucevic. I would go to his fantasy score. In this case, his projection's 39.85. I'd whip out the calculator and I would just simply go 39.85. And then I would divide it by 2 because there's 2 halves in a basketball game, right? And then you get a projection of about 19.9. So almost 20 fantasy points per half is what it kind of comes out to. Now we can check some other projections here. Again, this first one was 39.85. Let's go see what these other projection models are like in here about Vucevic. Here's one for 40.3, so even higher. That's going to be over 20 fantasy score per half. And then last but not least, we'll also check Fantasy Labs. And they've got him at a little bit of a lower number at 38.42. So pretty much no matter how you cut it, he's expected to score over 19.5. I mean, let's use the lowest projection here and just take a look at that one. 19.2, that would be very close. But I think if you were to average these 3 projections together and then divide them by 2, well, add them together, divide by 3, and then divide that number by 2, I think it would come out to slightly more than 19.5 fantasy score. So like I said, not a perfect science, but maybe a way for you to kind of get a feel for how a player might perform in the first half of a game. One other thing that you could do here that I've done in the past that kind of has helped me out is I went Nikola Vucevic first half FanDuel points. And instead of looking at logs, we're going to go points per game average this season. And this will give you an idea how many first half fantasy points per game that he averages for the year, which is 20.78. 20.78. His line is 19.5. Okay. So that's about 1.2 fantasy score per game higher. That's not terrible. And then you could take this a step further and go home or away. In this case, he's going to be playing away, right? Traveling to Toronto. He's played 41 games on the road, averages 20.3 first half fantasy points per game, which is still more than 19.5. But he seems to average slightly more fantasy points per game when he plays at home than he does away in the first half. So his home first half fantasy scores 21.2 points per game. All right. So if you're a guy who's a big believer in splits, not saying it's a significant difference between when he plays at home and when he plays away, but it is worth noting that he does score more fantasy points per game in the first half when he does play at home versus when he plays on the road. So there's a little bit of information for you on Vucevic. So perhaps you go and you take the over. And then one other thing we could do is versus Raptors this season. So he's played Toronto a total of 3 times this season. He has cleared 19.5 fantasy points in 2 out of the 3 games that he's played against the Toronto Raptors. The most recent game, February 28th, I do believe was a Jakob Poeltl game. So maybe Poeltl's presence inside makes a difference here. He did not hit in that game. Let's just go look. Yeah, Jakob Poeltl played 26 minutes. The other 2 games were pre-Jakob Poeltl when when Toronto was still kind of playing some small ball with like Precious Achiuwa maybe at the 5 or maybe even Siakam at the 5. So worth noting, the matchup today most closely resembles their most recent matchup. And in that game, Nikola Vucevic went under his first half fantasy score. So we're really getting into the weeds here, but sometimes you have to if you're looking for that edge. So hopefully that helped you out. Rocket Sauce with that Vucevic play. And then the other one you mentioned was the big man from the other side of this game, which was Jakob Poeltl. So let's go take a look at him real quick. Jakob Poeltl, first half FanDuel points logs this season. And we only really care about the games in which he's played since joining the Toronto Raptors, which all of these games that you're seeing here are from when he joined the Toronto Raptors. The games from the Spurs don't matter at this point. So he's at 15.5. So how many times has he cleared this line here recently? Let's go look at it. 1 out of his last 4, 2 out of his last 5. That's not a great hit rate. We back it up a little bit further here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He cleared in 1, 2, 3, 4 out of those 5 games. So we've got a hit rate of about 6 out of his last 10. So that's like Vucevic, 60% hit rate in his last 10 games. He started off really hot here. I mean, if you go back to some of these other games, 22, 30, 23, 24, 21, even 17-7 was enough to get him over the hump. But he's kind of cooled off here recently. But yeah, he has cleared 15.5 first half fantasy score in quite a few games. Just been a little colder here in this last like 4 games, we'll say. But not too shabby. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 out of his last 25 games as a Raptor. He has cleared 15.5 first half fantasy score. And you can also take a look at what he's done against the Bulls. So let's do that real quick. Again, these gray bars are going to indicate when he was with the Spurs. We don't care about that. He's played Chicago just once, and that was that February 28th game. He had 24.6 first half fantasy points going up against Nikola Vucevic and the Chicago Bulls. So that's a pretty nice standout game. And if you look at some of these other games that he's had against Vucevic throughout his career, even if we did want to, go back and look at some of the games versus the Bulls when he was still with the Spurs, I mean, Poeltl's covered his first half fantasy points against Vucevic and the Bulls. I mean, going all the way back to 2020 here, 24, 16, 17, 19, 24, 20, 24.6. I mean, he's had some pretty good success against the Bulls. We'll just say that, all right? But take that with a grain of salt. That was like 2-3 years ago. We're not so concerned about that. But let's get you some projections here on Jakob Poeltl. Again, not a perfect science or anything like that, but I just want to kind of show you what you can do to kind of get a roundabout number on how he could perform on his first half fantasy score today. So he's at 30.3. Let's check out a couple of other models here on Jakob Poeltl. 36.1. So that's a pretty big difference there. 30.3, 36.1. That's like almost 6 fantasy score difference between these two sites. Let's get you one more here. 29.3. So we've got a low of 29.3, a high of 36. So it's going to be tight potentially here. 29.33. Let's just use the lowest projection for the worst case possible scenario. 14.6 fantasy score per half based on that 29.33 full game fantasy score. We divided it by 2 halves in a basketball game. You get about 14.6 fantasy points per half. Now, what I will tell you is that Jakob Poeltl, I believe, is one of these guys who puts up more fantasy points in the first half than he does the second half. So again, using StatMuse to help us here, we go Jakob Poeltl first half FanDuel points per game average. This season, got to include this season, 72 games total. He's averaged about 17 first half fantasy score. Again, this is going to include games when he's with the Spurs, so not exactly entirely accurate, but 17 in the first half. And then if you look at his second half FanDuel points per game average, it drops down to 15.1. So he's definitely more of a front loaded or first half fantasy scorer. All right. So that hopefully, answers your question. He's going to get the bulk of, or the majority of his fantasy points in the first half versus the second half. So if you're going to play Poeltl, play him in the first half, I guess, as he tends to kind of do better in the first half than he does the second half. All right. Hopefully that helps you out though, Rocket Sauce. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you for Constant Dew Drinker leaving that nice little message. He says, good to see you back. Still thinking of you and your family, praying for the healing Thank you so much, man. It's been a hard, couple of months, but I think we're on our way up, on our way back. So, Delvin says, "What up, CJ? Shin Dog's in the building. Finally made it to the live stream. Got to work early for an appointment. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining. Another one of our Patreon members. Let's see. Anything else standing out here? Dominic Baker's liking some Zach LaVine dunks. Don't really have a great way of researching that. Mark Calloway, one of our more recent Patreon members. He's liking some Patrick Beverly fantasy. Let's just quickly look at Pat Bev real quick. Patrick Beverly, where's he at? He is sitting at 17.5 fantasy score. Let's pull some projections for Patrick Beverly real quick. I got Beverly projected for 18.7, so that's definitely more than 17.5. Let's check out some others. Here's a projection of 19.7. That's, again, definitely more than his line on PrizePicks. And last but not least, 20 fantasy points. So you've got 20, 19.7, and you got another projection here of 18.7, all of which are significantly higher than that 17.5. So those are all looking pretty good. Let's make another 2-pick. For those of you who just got here, we were talking a little bit about flirting with the idea of playing Siakam for more than 0.5 dunks. Patrick Williams, 0.5 steals. We were liking the over on that. Zach LaVine's rebounds and assists are looking pretty good as well. We've already used Vucevic over points and rebounds and Fred VanVleet over 2.5 3-point makes. So you could maybe go with something like Zach LaVine, OG Anunoby, and then throw like Patrick Beverly in there if you wanted to, for his fantasy score. If you wanted to get into another fantasy score prop, you could take the over or more on Pat Bev. That all looks good. I think for me, I'm going to make another 2-pick here. Let's go Zach LaVine, OG Anunoby. And we'll put, what did I put on the other one? Let me see. What did I put? 30? Yeah, put 30 on the other one. All right. So let's put another 30 on this one. OG for more on his fantasy score. LaVine for more on his rebounds and assists. And we'll see how that goes. You could also swap LaVine out, put Patrick Beverly fantasy score in there if you want to keep it fantasy friendly. OG and Pat Bev over their fantasy scores. That's not a bad move either. You know what? Let's do this. Let's reduce the entry to 15. We'll go 3-pick power play. 3-pick power play. We'll put $15 in, 75 if we get all three of these right. There we go. We'll go with that. We'll see what happens, right? But I think that's it. I don't think there's any other outstanding super chats or anything that we haven't covered. So I appreciate everybody who did leave a super chat. Hopefully, that has helped you out. Just to kind of recap some of these picks, you got these 3 that we just talked about. We've also got this 6-pick flex entry if you want to ride with that. And then we also made a 2-pick power play. And then you can go check out today's MLB video. These are picks from that MLB video. I explained why I took what I took. But yeah, those are some different options for you. Didn't really cover too much out of that New Orleans OKC game. But, good luck to everybody who decides to tail. Guys, if you're in Patreon, I'm going to be posting more picks. We went 3-1 on yesterday's group of picks. If I find any more picks outside of the ones that we talked about here on YouTube, I'll definitely post those. Of course, I'll have NBA cheat sheets. Already released the MLB cheat sheets. Those are live on Patreon, showing you the top 200 plays with the best edges, projected edges versus PrizePicks. So, we're giving back as much as we can through Patreon. If you want to join, it's just $20 a month. Link down in the description below. But that's it, man. Good luck on all your entries, and we will catch you guys inside Discord tonight for even more PrizePicks talk. Peace.